Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation. Now today I'd like to answer the question that I'm asked most often, and that is, are you still missing the big trending moves? I can't tell you how many emails I get almost on a daily basis where a lot of prospective students, a lot of people that want to become members of ours will ask me, Steve, do your methods and strategies, are they able to capture some of these big moves? Because I seem to be missing them. And even though I've been trading for a while, my strategy doesn't get me in. In fact, I miss them a lot. A lot of times I'll wait for them. I like something and I miss it completely because my strategy doesn't generate a signal, or maybe I feel it's too high or too low. For example, let's look at this chart right here to give you a clear idea of how most traders would trade and how they miss or seem to think that they miss these big trendy moves. As you look at this older chart in PDD, let's say that you were interested in purchasing this, but you feel it's kind of gone up. As you see the last 5 or 6 or 7 days, it's gone straight up. So you say to yourself, I'm going to wait till it gets back down to these levels, or maybe I'll just wait till the news comes out. Maybe you're waiting for the earnings, or maybe you're waiting for some unemployment numbers to come out. You just want to wait and see what happens. And so you wait, even though you like the stock, you wait, and then this happens, it gaps up. Now by this time, you're saying to yourself, well, wow, this is where I would most likely think about getting out. So you say, I've actually missed the trade. But in reality, have you actually missed the trade? Is it going to top out, or is it going to go higher? Well, the strategy I'm going to be talking about today actually didn't look at this as a missed trade, because it actually generated a buy signal right where you were thinking about getting out, and you could have potentially captured this next big move to the upside. So this is the strategy I want to share with you today that can really help you capture those big trendy moves. And also I want to talk to you about the platform that I developed with Pro Trader Strategies. That's the PTS Primo charting platform, because it really educates you and teaches you how to trade these big trendy moves. I'll go through the process today and show you how simple it is to identify these signals. So this promises to be a great educational presentation. Once again, thanks for joining us. My name is Steven Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. I teamed up with Pro Trader Strategies 10 years ago with one goal, and that was simply to educate you as traders, because we feel that's really what's missing from most traders' trading plans. You really think about it. How do you determine and decide what you're going to be buying or selling? Well, most traders, what they do is they go to a chat room, or they'll watch the news on TV, or watch some pundit on TV to find out what he's doing, or maybe they'll buy some $10,000 system that's supposed to never fail. And each and every one of these different things and categories is supposed to tell you what to buy or sell on a nightly basis. But when you trade that way, what are you doing? You're basically telling the markets, I don't have any, really good experience, or I'm not really trained well enough, or I really don't know what I'm doing. So rather than make my own trading decisions, I'll rely on these outside sources to make my decisions for me. Now, that seems all well and good, but if this really worked well, 80 to 85% of all traders wouldn't be losing money. And when we say losing money, we don't mean you're in a small slump. It means basically you've given all your money back. So this really isn't a consistent plan when you take yourself out of the game and listen to someone else to give you your trading instructions. So the only thing that really works is when you're educated in things that have shown to have consistency throughout the test of time, and then you decide for yourself how you want to apply them. Now, the good news is, as Specialist Trading and Pro Trader Strategies, we provide that service. We provide you with strategies, with methods and techniques, such as you'll see today, and then we teach you and work with you so that you can decide exactly how to trade them. You'll see the attention to detail we give into educating you in today's presentation. So this is the service we provide. We are educators, and we really want you to become a consistent trader. Now, before we begin, as always, we're required firstly to share this with you, so please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results, a lot of current results using this strategy I'm going to be talking about today, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also, please remember that all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, I know a lot of you, I see a lot of familiar faces, but I know there are also some new people in today's presentation, and many of you have not already chosen to follow us on Twitter. So please, now's a good time to copy down that handle right there. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter. There's a lot of great free educational information. Every day I post different little bits of financial wisdom to signals our strategies have generated. So lots of great free education on a daily basis. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now remember, once again, as I stated in the opening statements, we are different from other webinars you may have attended, other presentations in the past, in that we don't promise to have a system that never fails. We don't promise to tell you what to buy or sell on a nightly basis. If you've come into today's webinar looking for that, you've really come to the wrong place, because once again, our service is simply to provide you with sound fundamental education that has stood the test of time. Things that I currently use in my own trading. I've been trading roughly for 43 years now. And everything that I teach, I currently use in my own trading plans. So as you can see here, my goal is not to force feed you signals and tell you what to buy or sell on a nightly basis. Remember, that's the way the entire industry is based on. And that's why, in my opinion, 80 to 85% of all traders fail. What I want to do is teach you so that you can make your own trading decisions. This is called the specialist edge. This is the same edge I was taught some 43 years ago when I first started trading. I started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange, and I struggled like perhaps many of you are doing right now. But I was lucky enough to have some mentors that taught me these same things, and this is our goal, to teach you the same things. Hopefully they will be able to sustain you for not just a couple of months or a couple of years, but 20, 30, 40 years down the road, okay? Now, since this is going to be an educational class today, I want to take as many questions as possible, but please wait till the end of today's class to ask questions. I promise I'll get to each and every one of them, but if we stop for every slide, we'll be here far too long. I don't want to take your entire day up, so please, if you have a question, write it down and try to remember it, and I promise I'll get to it at the very end, okay? The only question I will answer is this one. It's the most common and popular, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. We record all of our webinars, so if you have to leave early or if you're having technical difficulties, don't worry. Each and every one of you will receive a link to this recording, all right? Okay, with that stated then, let's begin today's presentation. And the strategy I want to be sharing with you today and talking about is strategy number 10. This is an entirely new strategy. In fact, it's just been available for the last month or so. We just, launched it within the last, it's actually still in pre-launch phase, actually, within the last weeks or months. So it's a really brand new strategy. So let me share with you some of the highlights, okay? This is our entirely new short-term strategy. Now, a few of the students that have already purchased this are a little bit confused as to what we mean by short-term. Short-term does not mean that you're in and out of a trade in a couple of days. Now, you can if you want to, but I know it'll confuse you because today's title is catching those big or missing those big trending moves. So someone would think, if it's a short-term strategy, how can I catch these big trending moves? The reason why we say it's a short-term strategy is because it's entirely based on short-term formats. In other words, what we used to do is look at the overall trend. We would use our buy-sell line. That's another tool we have at Specialist Trading. That's the 50-period moving average. That's not included to determine the trend. So we're basing these decisions off of short-term tools, short-term requirements. And one of them is we do not need the buy-sell line for this. What we are using to determine the trend, since we always follow the trend, is our proprietary short-term trend tool, which is the PET-D. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes here. Now, what also differentiates this from other strategies and methods we have is that it's a combination indicator-based pattern recognition strategy. Usually we'll have a method that is solely based on an indicator, one or two, or we'll have one that's solely based on patterns, such as strategy number 4. But this one combines not only an indicator, but as well with a pattern to come up with its determination of a signal, okay? Now, the beauty of this is it's designed to trade in continuation with the short-term trend. Once again, there's that term, short-term. This doesn't mean we're going to be in and out in a couple of days. Once again, you can decide if you'd like to do that. In our course, we give you upwards of 6 to 7 different exit points. It's up to you to decide. Do you want to stay in for the long haul, or would you like to get out in a couple of days? That's perfectly normal. It's up to you. We also give you 6 or 7 different stop placements and 6 or 7 different entry points. So it's entirely up to you as to how you want to trade it. But for those of you looking to capture those missing big trends, that you've missed lately, this is a great, great strategy to trade. In addition, one of the other benefits of this is that you can apply option trading to this. Why? Well, just to give you a little clue, a lot of our strategies require a confirmation. In other words, they require, if you get a buy signal, it must close towards the top of that range, okay? Many times this is not conducive to option trading because that means the premiums will be a lot more expensive. Well, guess what? That's not included in this as well in terms of that requirement. Many times you'll get a buy signal with strategy number 10 that closes at the bottom portion of its range. So this is another overall trending tool that we're not requiring in this. So because you may see a signal that closes in the bottom, maybe even closes at the bottom of the day, this is perfect for option trading. Why? Because that means the premiums are much, much lower. So this is a great, if you're an option trader, an option timer, this is a great strategy to apply options with, okay? Now, in the course, we supply you with both aggressive as well as conservative versions, ways to enter, ways to place your stop. Now, I know we have a lot of swing traders. We also have a lot of long-term investors. Well, many times, these long-term investors like to look for a way to hedge their long-term investments or portfolio. So this is a great way by applying a short-term method to offset those longer-term investments, okay? So you can continue to hold on to your long-term investments, but once the trend changes on the short term, you can offset it by hedging with strategy number 10. Now, as with all of our methods, regardless of what it's based on, regardless of its short-term, long-term, regardless of its currency pairs, Bitcoin, stocks, futures, our edge is that all of our methods have a deep sense of consistency. Now, I know a lot of you think, well, consistency means that Steve is saying that it always produces winners. That's really not the basis for the term consistency. Consistency actually is an awareness that you will have losses from time to time. It goes entirely against what most people think consistency means. But that's okay, because if you have losses from time to time, a consistent method will be able to recoup those losses. You see, you don't want a method that gives you a couple of losses, then a couple of more, then a couple of more, and pretty soon those gains you made a few weeks ago have all dried up, and now you're in the loss column. That's not consistency. And unfortunately, that's the way a lot of methods are generating signals these days. What you want is, okay, you have a strategy that generated a sell here, and maybe it didn't work out, the market went up, and then it generates a buy here, and maybe it didn't work out, the market went down. That's okay. You have a couple of losses, 1 or 2 losses. But then most of the time, the very next setup will be a winner, which is able to recoup those 2 losses. That's what we mean by consistency, all right? 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So I'll show you a couple of instances today where there would have been losses, but how the very next setup could have recouped those losses, all right? Now, one of the other things I want to mention is that strategy number 10 is extremely simple. I believe there's only about 4 rules altogether. So unfortunately, I cannot divulge the rules. It would not be fair to the students who've already purchased strategy number 10. Even though it's new, we already have a nice, good base of brand new students trading this. But I can share with you the process, okay? So let me share with you the short-term setup process for this. All right, the first thing we want to do is determine trend. We always want to do that, but we wanted to determine the short-term trend. Remember, we're usually looking for the overall trend. But in this case, we're going to ignore that and just look for the short-term trend. So how do we do that? We apply the PET-D. All right, this is the tool I talked about earlier. Many of you are already students of the PET-D course. Many of you already have the PET-D, but I see a lot of new faces here today that aren't familiar with what the PET-D is. This is a proprietary tool I was first introduced to on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange when I was working and when I was struggling down there. And my mentors taught me how to calculate this. Unfortunately, though, at the time, there was a calculation, so we had to calculate almost on every tick, and it was just too cumbersome to trade on the intraday basis, so we could only actually apply it at the end of day. We called it the formula because it was a formula we had to calculate. But Pro Trader Strategies and myself developed, with the help of some programmers, we developed this into a color bar tool. So now it's really simple. We've taken the hard work out of it for you. All you simply have to do is click on our platform, the PET-D tab, and it automatically changes the colors. Let me show you how it works here. Someone looking at this older chart net, they would say, well, sure, Steve, it's easy to see you're in an uptrend. But just when you get in and you think, okay, it's safe to be in an uptrend, this usually happens, right? Now, the PET-D does not tell you exactly to get in at the bottom and tell you exactly to get out at the top. But it does a better job of this than anything I know. It simply colors the bars green for an uptrend and red for a downtrend. You see how when you had consecutive green bars here, it told you well in advance that you were in an uptrend. And well before you would have figured out that we were going lower, it gave you early warning that you were in a downtrend once the consecutive bars turned red. So as it says here, in my over 4 decades of trading, the PET-D is the best tool I found for capturing the short-term trend. So the PET-D will determine the trend will either have a series of green bars or a series of red bars. Now, let's go to the second portion of the process. What if we are looking for buy setups? Well, what we want to do is identify a shallow pullback. Now, most of the time in our other courses, we're looking for moderate pullbacks. These can last anywhere from a week to maybe even a month of a sell-off. Now, because we're only looking at the short-term setup, we're only looking for a 1 to 3 day sell-off in a short-term uptrend. Now, it does this by the pattern and as well as the indicator we use in the course that identifies this valid 1 to 3 day pullback, all right? That's if we get a buy. Now, if we get a sell, we want to see that the setup bar is colored red, and conversely, we identify a shallow pullback. This means a bounce in a short-term downtrend. And this is a 1 to 3 day bounce in a short-term downtrend, okay? The way we identify this 1 to 3 day bounce is what we teach you in the course when we combine this indicator along with the pattern recognition. So this is the basic process. It seems a little wordy now, but it's extremely simple. And plus, we make it simple on our platform because it automatically is there to teach you how to identify these setups. So let's look at some strategy number 10 setups in action, okay? Firstly, let's look at some uptrend moves that happened in the last couple of months. All right, these are fairly recent. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll share with you a good series of signals that were generated within the last few weeks, okay? All right, here's the process you would go using our platform as well, and the process for identifying a strategy number 10 buy setup. Now, someone looking at this would say, Steve, how can you tell there's a buy setup? It basically looks like we're going sideways. There's no trend here. Well, that's not really true because the first thing you want to do is click on the Pet D on our platform, and the Pet D will automatically change the colors. Now, as you can see, where most traders who don't have the Pet D would say, well, there's absolutely no trend there. The market's going sideways. The Pet D is saying, not really. Even though it looks as if we're going sideways, the market wants to go higher on the short term. So if you're doing anything, you should look at this from a buyer's perspective on the short term. Okay. Now, we teach you in the course how to identify this combination of the indicator as well as the pattern. And let's say that you think you spot a setup, a strategy number 10 buy setup, since the bars are green. Okay. Well, the way to check your work is you click on strategy number 10 and click on the arrows, and you'll automatically see that, yes, you were right. This is a valid setup. Now, someone could say, wow, how did you see a pullback? Remember, we're only looking for a 1 to 3 day small little sell-off. As you can see, we closed up here just off this 1 day lower close. That's all we need to determine a buy signal. In AMTD, now you have the choice of how to enter, where you want to exit, or where you want to place your stop. Either way, it was a smart trade because in the following week, the stock jumped up 12 points, okay? Where someone would have said, well, Steve, this is going sideways. Strategy number 10 determined that there was going to be a nice big upward move of 12 points within the following weeks. Now, if you missed that one, don't worry. There was another buy setup just days later right here at the bottom of this one day sell-off. All right, let's look at another example, BOLD, bold, okay? We're only going to look at 4 bars here. That's how sensitive the Pet D is. Only looking at 4 bars, we click on Pet D, and it's telling us we're in a short-term downtrend. Now, remember, it's all about consistency. Remember, we shared with you that you will have losses from time to time. That's okay. That's how sensitive the Pet D is. But at this time, it was telling you you should be looking to go short. You click on the arrows, and you can see that, yes, there is a signal to go short right here. Excuse me. So you decide to sell, and guess what? It goes against you. Now, if you're using one of our moderate stops here, you would have lost, let's say, about 4 points. Okay, not a big loss, but still any loss is something you're not something that you're looking forward to. But 4 points you would have lost there. Now, what most traders do is because they're not used to a method that is consistent, that's able to recoup it. They're usually scared that they're going to continue losing because they've seen it in the past. They would go and sulk in the corner and say, well, this stuff doesn't work. My first trade is a loser. I'm not going to trade this. But you have to be ever diligent because many times you'll get another setup just based off 2 or 3 days later. Why? Because you have a green bar, closed a little bit lower than the previous green bar, and that's all you need, along with 2 other rules to generate a buy signal, and 31 points in the next 2 weeks. Do you think you could have recouped that 4-point loss? This is what we mean by consistency. It's okay to have a loss every once in a while. It's not okay to have a series of losses where you continue to lose and lose and lose. That's not a consistent method. Here's an example in ALLK. Once again, it appears as if the stock is going absolutely nowhere, going sideways. Once you click on the PET D, though, the PET D is telling you the contrary. It's saying, no, even though we're going sideways, we are in an overall uptrend, a short-term uptrend, I should say. All right. So now we look for that combination of an indicator, pattern recognition, strategy identification. You check your work to see if you're right. Click on strategy 10. And yes, here's the pullback. It's a 2-day pullback. 44 points in 1 day, okay? You see the beauty of this and how you're able to capture these. Now remember, we're not saying you would have made 44 points because how you decide to enter, how you decide to exit, what vehicle you're trading, are you trading the options, okay? Did you actually buy the stock? It's entirely up to you. That's why we say that we're not making the choice of how to trade. You are. That's what will make you a consistent trader. You don't come to specialist trading expecting me to tell you what to buy, where to enter, where to get out. You come to specialist trading, and as your educator, as your mentor, I teach you the different ways and what to identify and how to use 6 or 7 different exits, 6 or 7 different entries and stop placements. It's up to you to decide which one of those will make you feel the most comfortable. But you will only be consistent once you feel comfortable with your own trading strategy. And being comfortable is not blindly following someone else's trading signals. Being comfortable only comes when you make your own choices. All right, here's an example in ICPT. Obviously, in the beginning of November, we were going higher. All the bars are green. Now we want to look for some small 1 to 3 day pullbacks, and we have a series of them, 1, 2, 3, all right, right around the same price here at the beginning of November. Coming into mid-December last month, potentially you could have captured 47 points, okay? This is what we mean by, consistency. Even though you may have had a loser every once in a while, there's some really nice signals here that can capture these big trendy moves. Here's another example of basically going sideways in KOD. This was in October, coming into December, or November, I should say, coming into December. Now, even though we're going sideways, all of the bars are green, all right? There is a 1 day pullback right here where I can almost venture to say that and guarantee that no other trader would view this as a buy signal. They'd say, why would you buy it right here? That's the beauty of strategy number 10, because everything is based on a short-term combination of setups that will generate a signal. Now, someone would say, well, why would you buy this? It's going sideways. Don't you want to wait for the earnings, or don't you want to wait and see what the institutions are doing, or don't you want to wait and see what's going on in the world? You can if you want to. Remember, it's up to you. It's entirely your decision, but those are not requirements. They're not part of strategy number 10. So you can get into this if you want to. And coming into the first week of December, stock was up 52 points. Potentially, you could have captured over 50 points in just about 3 weeks. And if you missed that, don't worry. There was another setup right here in the beginning of last month. All right, let's look at some downtrending moves, because remember, we don't just trade up stocks, we also trade down stocks. It's up to you if you want to trade both or just one direction, but we want to give you the option. So let's look at this market here in PINS, P-I-N-S. Obviously, we've been going in a downtrend, but wouldn't you have liked to know somewhere up here that you were in a downtrend? That's the beauty of the PET D. Look how the PET D had already started to color these bars red well before we started to head lower. Now, we just want to look for a couple of bounces here that meet all the requirements. Once we click on the strategy number 10, we see that we had a series of different cells. You could have taken either one of these, but if you'd taken the very first one, 13 points to the downside. Now remember, the beauty of this strategy is if the trend is strong enough and if the requirements are still met, you'll still get signals generated along the way. Here's an example in letter I. Kind of looks like we're going sideways, but once we apply the PET D, we have a series of red, then a couple of green, then more red. So what do? Well, remember, even though our platform will automatically generate these arrows, we want you to be able to identify on your own where the signals are being generated. It wouldn't do us any good just to simply say, click on the tab and the arrows will automatically appear. I mean, we'd be turning into the same thing that we go against, which is someone blindly taking orders. As an educator, we don't want you to do that. We provide this for you as an educational tool so you'll be able to check your work. What I want you to do is ultimately get to the point where I am right now, where I can simply look and with the help of a few indicators and a couple of patterns, automatically identify that a strategy 10 setup has been generated. So you don't have to rely on the up and down arrows. Now, just to check your work, let's say you click on strategy number 10 and there was a sell signal right there, just the way you thought there was, okay? The bar is red. All you need is for this bar to be red and it to meet all the other requirements. Now, let's say you're a very conservative trader and you had a very tight stop. Well, maybe you would have gotten stopped out on this. Let's say your stop was just above this bar, all right? So you got it stopped out. And since this isn't a really expensive stock, maybe you lost a point or two, all right? Now, remember, always be on the lookout because there may be another setup generated. And in this case, in the next 3 or 4 days, another sell setup was. So instead of being scared to get back in, you have to get back on the horse because potentially you could have made back that 1 or 2 point loss and potentially captured 20 points. This is what we mean by consistency. We're not going to sit here and tell you the way some other webinars do that this hasn't had a losing trade in the last 6 or 7 months. I mean, we don't believe in that. There's nothing wrong with losing trades, okay? What's wrong is when you have a strategy or method that's not able to recoup a series of losing trades. All right, let's look at this example here in PLCE. Excuse me, this is the way most traders, myself included, when I first started trading, this is the way I looked at this. I'd say, well, sure, we're in a short-term downtrend, but look what happened here. We have a classic reversal. We close near the low, and then the very next bar, we close up. This is a reversal. This was I was always taught, and that means we've come to the bottom, and most likely we're going to head higher, okay? So I'm a buyer of this stock. Maybe I would jump in and buy at the market. Maybe I would wait for it to trade above that high. Either way, I'm looking at this from a buyer's perspective. But once again, I use these old, worn-out ways of trading, and my first year or two trading, I couldn't make a dime, and I couldn't understand it. I was using all the traditional wisdom that was supposed to work. My mentor said, listen, Steve, rather than listening to these things that really don't have any sense of consistency, why not listen to what the market's telling you? And the PET D is a translator. It translates on a tick-by-tick basis what the market wants to do. So it took a little time for me to grasp the concept, but once I figured it out and I said, okay, I'm losing money, this stuff is not working, show me how to calculate the PET D, and I started applying it, well, it really did start translating what the market wanted to do. For example, right here, I click on the PET D, and guess what? Even though we're headed lower, the last 3 bars were in sync. They're not telling me that we're bottoming out. It's telling me that we want to go lower. And on top of that, if I add the other requirements of strategy number 10, what happened here? We had a bounce, okay? That's the 1-day requirement needed in order to generate a sell signal. If I click on strategy 10, and guess what? It confirmed it. Remember, once again, after studying the course for a while, you should be able to confirm these on your own. But in the beginning stages, while you're learning the course, we provide you with these up and down arrows. And that was a valid sell signal to go short, and guess what? It worked pretty well. Now, this is unfortunately, what a lot of students do. They'll say, well, Steve, that's great. I love this. I'm really doing well. But you know what? I still believe in support and resistance. I still believe in the institutions. I can't seem to let go of that yet. And so I'm going to cover my short. I made pretty good money on this, but there's major support here, all right? That other course I took says that all the banks are buying here, all the institutions, are being confirmed by the volume. So I've got to go long here. I'm sorry, the PET D is still red, but I've got to go long here, okay? Well, remember, you can do whatever you want, but those things really don't work. I used to trade with the institutions, and they weren't any more consistent than anything else. So following the PET D really helped me to become a consistent trader. In fact, this strategy, not only did it say there was no support there, it generated 3 more sell signals where you thought there was support, and potentially could have given you a 27-point gain, all right? Look what happened here when the market fell out of bed. What happened to the support? Remember, don't follow things that have no levels of consistency. They're just too subjective. I've already been there. I've done the hard work for you. They don't work. So why waste your money on these things that have just been around for ages? For some reason, we've all been taught they're supposed to work, and they really don't. The best thing that works, in my opinion, is simply listening to the market. We have the tools and the techniques that do just that. All they're supposed to do is listen to the market. Because why not? That's what you're trading, right? That's the source of what you're trading. Shouldn't you just be listening to that? Here's another example in Beyond, okay? This was coming into November. Now, someone could say, but Steve, how can I sell this? It's been going straight down for so long. Well, you're right, it has been. But remember, the markets can go as low as they want or as high as they want. And if you use the rules of this particular strategy, it actually generated right on the low here a sell signal. So coming into November, you still could have captured another 30 points. So never try to say that something is too oversold or too overbought. If the PET D is red, it's telling you the trend, the short-term trend is still saying it wants to go lower. And another signal was generated there, and another one here if you happen to miss those first trades. All right, so let's look at some other markets real quickly, because we know that most people don't just trade stocks. Even though it's been my observation that strategy number 10 works the best on stocks, you can still apply it to other markets. For example, here's a 4-hour chart of the British pound, all right? All the bars are green. We have 2 buy signals here on a 4-hour chart. 360 pips in the next week, okay? That's over close to $4,000 per unit. How about a 10-minute chart of the E-mini? All right, this was in December last month. Look at all the sell signals generated here. If you're a day trader, some are better than others, but look at all the consistency you could have generated there. 28 points potentially you could have captured. That's $1,400 per contract, just trading one contract in the E-mini. Here's an example in coffee. I know a lot of traders, if the markets start to turn bad, they want to get out of the stock market and they want to get into more tangible things like commodities. Well, guess what? You can still apply this to commodities. Here's coffee in November coming into December last month. Now, it had a nice run up and it looked as if it was starting to curl over. A lot of traders would probably say, well, coffee prices are rolling over, time to get out, time to sell it. Well, according to the PET D, the majority of the bars are green. We only have one red bar. Now, all that's really required, though, is that our signal bars need to be colored the corresponding color of the PET D. So if we have a buy signal and the bar is red, it's not valid. But as long as we have a buy signal and all the bars are red, but the buy signal is colored green, it's still valid. So let's see what these two signals were. Yes, there was a green bar, and yes, there was another green bar. Even though the next bar was red, that's not enough to tell us to get out. And 38 points to the upside after those signals were generated. That represents thousands of dollars potentially you could have captured if you're trading coffee. So let's recap before we go into the question and answer portion of this presentation. Remember, the process for trading strategy number 10 is the first thing you want to do is apply the PET D. That's going to determine the short-term trend, either a series of green bars or red bars. Now let's say the two requirements come into play and we find a shallow pullback along with some other pattern and an indicator. We want to see that that bar is colored green. That will generate a buy signal. Let's say we have a red bar or a series of red bars and all the requirements come into play. Well, we want to identify a shallow pullback or a bounce. That means a 1 to 3 day bounce in a short-term downtrend, okay? Remember, the remaining two rules, the remaining two requirements are taught to you in the course, as well as the 6 or 7 different entry, exit, and stop placements for you to decide how you want to trade. Remember, it's up to you to decide how you trade these high probability setups. What we're teaching you and spotlighting are high probability setups. And then it's up to you to decide off of the information we provide you how you want to enter, how you want to exit, how you want to place your stop. Remember, our goal is to get you to become a consistent trader. The only way that happens is by you making your own decisions, not by me telling you where to enter, where to sell, where to place your stop. You have to do that. The good news is that we work with you to help you decide what feels most comfortable. Now, ask yourself before you ask me questions. 2019 is over. It's done. Do you think this strategy can help your trading going into 2020? Most likely you didn't complete last year where you thought you would. It's time to start in the right direction. Strategy 10 is a great new strategy. Become one of the first members to start trading this and start off 2020 in the right direction. Now, we have a great discount for you all today. And this is going to be a great, I believe, about a 10% discount in trading strategy number 10, okay? This is an entirely new short-term strategy. It applies the PET D for the short-term trend. It's a combo indicator pattern-based method. You're going to get the complete course rules, the aggressive and conservative version. And remember, the average trade lasts 1 to 10 days, but with different ways in which to apply exits, you can stay on much longer if you like. The beauty of strategy 10 is it's one of our few methods that you can actually apply option trading to. Why? Because of its short-term basis, you don't have to enter once price has confirmed it's going higher. Because it can generate a buy signal at the very low of a bar, many times the premiums on these short-term option models are very inexpensive. So this is great for trading options, okay? Now, on top of this, we're going to offer you the PTS Primo charting platform. This is the educational platform that teaches you how to trade these big trending moves. I share with you the process and how simple it is to help you learn to identify these setups. We're going to give you 12 months absolutely free. Now, we're not going to just stop there. We're not going to just say, well, you're going to get the PET D on that as well as the up and down arrows. You also get a host of different tools and educational materials on the platform as well. Obviously, you'll get strategy number 10 along with a PET D, but you'll also get another feature called our Strength of Trend feature. This is a tool I developed with Pro Trader Strategies that has an uncanny ability for telling you if there's still momentum left in a move or not, and this will help you determine if you want to stay in the trade or not. You also get over 90 of the most prominent technical indicators. We have automatic exit levels. One of our exit plans, within the 7 exit plans, one of them has been automated, and all you have to do is click it on, and it will tell you and give you these different exit levels, okay? But one of the things I'm most proud of when I developed the platform with Pro Trader Strategies is our signal scanner, because it's so simple. I have a pet peeve. I've used just about every trading platform and educational platform you can think of. You know, without naming names, I know how most of them work. And one of my pet peeves is the ability to create a scan. Let me show you how simple it is, how we devise this on our platform. All you have to do is basically click on the scanning feature on the strategy number 10 drop-down menu, and you'll see a spreadsheet appear. You can pick whatever market you're interested in, currency pairs, stocks, futures, you know, major markets that are outside of the US, the European markets, and then simply click on scan, and it will produce a series of green and red bars. All right, the green bars mean there's a buy signal. The red bars means there's a sell signal. Now let me share with you what you could have scanned in the past 2 weeks. For example, as we look at LEA here, here's a blank chart of LEA. It looks kind of like it's going higher, but not a lot of information. Once we applied the PET D, we see that the last 4 bars were green. So this means we're only going to be a buyer. Even though it may appear it's gone up too quickly, we only want to be a buyer. Now that we teach you the rules of strategy number 10, and you could have scanned for setups on the night of the 10th, which was just a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, a buy signal was generated in this stock, LEA. All right, so you would have known that night, or even 5 minutes before the close. A lot of our students like to scan 5 minutes before the close because most likely the setup will already be generated. And you can know right then if you want to purchase that stock, if you want to buy the options, it's up to you. But that would have been a wise choice because the stock jumped up 16 points in the next 4 days. This was just about 3 weeks ago. Now as well, we look at this example here in IFF, okay? Looks like it's going down lower, maybe making a ledge. You're thinking to yourself, well, there's some support here. But once we apply the PET D, we see the last 4 bars once again are red. So we have a seller's bias on the short term. Now we've studied the rules, we know what to look for, and we see that there are actually 2 sells generated here in the middle of last month. 2 sells in IFF, all right? 15 points in 3 days. You could have scanned for these on the nights of the 11th and the 12th and taken advantage of a 15-point drop in 3 days. Remember, once again, this gap down because of some news or some event, that's not required at all. We don't follow the news. There's no need to do that. We don't follow institutions. We don't follow volume. We don't follow support and resistance. Remember, I traded those things 4 decades ago, and they couldn't make me a dime then, so I'm not requiring them in any of our methods. We only listen to one thing. That's the market in front of us, and we teach you how simple it is to do that. Now, here's another scan you could have taken advantage of, okay? In the middle of last month in Tesla, we all seen Tesla's been going straight up lately. Well, you could have scanned on the night of the 17th. There was a buy signal. And then another one on the night of the 30th, all right? Just before the end of the year, just a week or so ago, another buy signal was generated. Total, altogether, potentially you could have captured upwards of 75 points. And then let's look here at INCY, okay? 2 sell signals were generated, one just before Christmas on the 23rd and 24th, and then coming into this past week, there was a 15-point drop. And then lastly, just on the 30th, just about a week or so ago, you could have scanned on the night of the 30th, seen that there was a buy signal. All right, you have all green bars. Look how you closed. You closed near the low, so it would have been an inexpensive option to buy. And then 10 points in 3 days, okay? So this is what we mean by capturing these big trendy moves. These all happened within the last couple of weeks. You could have scanned for them on our scanner. So be one of the first to take advantage of this entirely new strategy. Start 2020 in the right direction. Come on board with a highly consistent strategy that's simple to learn, and I'll be there with you every step of the way. So let's break it down. What's it going to cost to actually purchase strategy number 10? Well, we have a great discount for you. Now we have two different options because we know that some of our students already have the Pet D, some of you don't. So let's look at the two different options. Here's the first one, the early pre-launch special price with the Pet D. This is including the Pet D, normally costs close to $5,000. We're going to discount that by 10%. We're going to take off $500. It's only $44.95. Now, we realize that that's still out of reach for some of you, so don't worry. We will offer payment plans. So for a small deposit, you don't have to come up with a total of $44.95. For a small deposit, you can still be up and running and be a student of mine and have strategy number 10, okay? Now, we realize that some of you already have the Pet D. You've already been course members of the Pet D. That's okay. If you already own the Pet D, normally the price is $34.95. We'll take off another 10% off that, and we'll only charge you $29.95. Once again, for both of these different variables, for both of these different options, you can have a payment plan. So for a small deposit, either with the first option or with the second one, you can still be up and running. This is how much we want you to become a consistent trader. We're really discounting these, and on top of that, we're offering you payment plans so that you don't have to come up with that one lump sum. Remember, this also includes 12 months of the platform entirely free. That's like adding an extra couple of $1,000s on top of those already existing prices. So this is really a great, great offer. And remember, you get all those different features, and included with this great offer, you get me as your personal mentor. You get my personal email address. You can email me whenever you'd like over the weekend, in the middle of the night. We realize that not everyone is on West Coast time the way I am. You can email me whenever you'd like, and I'll get there as soon as possible to answer any question you may have. This is all included with that low, low price. So here's how to take advantage of this. Contact Pro Trader Strategies. I developed the course with them. They handle all the course pricing and all the discounts and all the tech support that comes along with the platform. You can email them, but I personally would suggest calling them directly at area code 310-598-6677. The reason is there's absolutely no obligation. They would be more than happy to work and construct a payment plan with you. And so you can ask them what that might come out to. There's no obligation, and there's just a good way to understand exactly what would be required of you and the small deposit you'd have to put down. Now, that link you see at the very bottom has been posted on our chat box, because that link is not a live link, but the one in the chat box is, and that will take you to the sign-up page if you're ready to go, or if you want some more information about the strategy, just click on that link. But I would highly suggest contacting Pro Trader Strategies. Once again, there's absolutely no obligation. They would be happy to work with you or happy to give you more information about pricing, and then you can decide for yourself. And just call them directly at 310-598-6677. Now, as I promised, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. Just go to your question and answer box on the far right-hand corner of the GoToWebinar column and just click on the question box and type in the question, and I will be there to answer it. Someone is asking, does this work in intraday trading? Yes, it does. Now, once again, it's been my experience that you get higher probability setups using strategy number 10 with daily and weekly and higher bars of stocks. But having said that, you can still apply. We have a number of students that still use it for intraday trading. As you saw, I gave you examples there with 4-hour charts of currency pairs, as well as a 10-hour chart of the E-mini futures. So it's up to you, but it's just been my experience, and I would suggest starting out using it on daily bars and higher time frames, okay? That's a good question. Steve, why don't you use the 50-period moving average? Oh, that's a good question. Remember, once again, it's because this setup is generated based off short-term criteria, all right? longer term criteria, which uses the 50-period moving average, is great, but oftentimes you'll miss those big trending moves. And so we devised this with that, basic concept in mind, that we want to get there before these moves take off. And the way to do that is not focus on the overall trend, but focus on the short term. That way we get in a lot quicker. If you remember, if you remember a lot of the slides I showed you, a lot of those examples, it looked as if the stock was just basically going sideways, right? Where it looked as if, well, there's nothing happening here. If we had based a lot of our signals off of longer or intermediate time type of trending, we would have missed those signals. But because we were looking at the short term, the PET-D is so sensitive to that. It's translating on such a tick-by-tick basis. It gives us the ability to capture those big trends before they happen. That's why we call this, a strategy that's able to capture those missing big trending moves. Okay. Any more questions? These are good ones. Can we apply this to our own platforms? Well, yes, you can. I would raise that question with Pro Trader Strategies. I know that most of our strategies, the up and down arrows and the PET-D, can be applied to most of the major platforms such as Thinkorswim, NinjaTrader, along with NinjaTrader, or TradeStation, Metastock, MT4, Sierra Charts. I would contact Pro Trader Strategies. Remember, once again, there's absolutely no obligation. You don't have to be worried that they're going to sell you something. They'll just give you information, but there are qualified trading consultants manning the phones right now that would be happy to answer any question concerning platforms and as well concerning discounts and putting together a payment plan. Okay. So anything concerning tech support or platforms, I would speak to them. They know that much better than I do. I'm more concerned with teaching you how to actually trade this strategy. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, we are just about out of time and at the end of today's presentation. I hope you learned something. I hope you saw how great this strategy is at capturing those big trending moves. And if you really want to start out 2020 in the right direction, just go back and look at the goals you set at the beginning of 2019. Most likely, you never got near reaching any of those. That's okay. I was there as well some 4 decades ago. What we want to do is have you achieve those goals. And one of the best ways to do this is by trading new strategy number 10, either with options or purchasing the stock. It's up to you. But we really feel it will be able to make you a consistent trader starting out in 2020, okay? I want to thank you so much as you take it one last look at our disclaimer. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation, but most especially, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the strategy number 10 course, okay? Give Pro Trader Strategies a call, ask them any question. They would be happy to answer them with no obligation at all. Thank you so much for attending. I wish you the best of luck trading and look forward to all of you becoming students of mine. Thanks again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.